Hello everyone, I wanted to do a quick video on how I set up my charts for analysis. I put a lot on these, but I also change things so that I can access the tools that I need very quickly when I need to, but that I don't have to look at them all the time because they can become very cluttered. So I can do this to make everything disappear and get rid of these, and then I'm just looking at the S&P 500, or I can double click and add them all back when I do my weekly scans and to make sure that I'm looking through all my indicators. So let's first talk about how we can access the S&P 500. This is the main one that I use. So we can go type in SPX. If you go here under stock, it's not going to show you anything. So this is going to vary a little bit depending on which platform you're using, but you should be able to find it fairly quickly and just make sure that it says S&P 500. You can also use SPY, which is a stock. It's an exchange traded fund, so that one's also fine. You can also use ES, but you'll have to go under futures and then just click this one, the current contract in front month. And this, the nice thing about this one is that it's going to update all night if you have access to it. You may have to pay for it extra. Some brokers will include it. And TradingView, I think I can't remember if I pay for this one or not, but this will update except on weekends, but it'll update throughout the night, so you'll have an idea of how the market's moving overnight, if we're going to be a lot lower when we open, things like that. For the most part, I'll check this in the morning sometimes just to see, because the market hasn't opened yet. I'll see how we're doing, but for the most part I'm just using the actual index itself, and this is the one you'll see on my market outlooks and stock watch lists each week on TradeThatSwing.com most often. Okay, so let's start with a couple things here. I have added a 200-day moving average. This I don't keep on my chart very often. It's only for when you're running scans. Once you get to that section, we are comparing how far the price is above the 200-day moving average. And I'll also look at how it compares to the 50-day moving average. And this just gives me, when I'm doing my scans, an estimate. If the S&P 500's 15% above its 200-day moving average, and we want to focus on strong stocks, we know that we want stocks that are at least 15 or more percent above their 200-day moving average. So those I'll throw on there. It's just indicators, type in moving average, and just add this one. Click on it, settings, change this one to 50 and put whatever color you like, and then do it again to add a 200 day. So I'm just going to get rid of this one for now. To hide them, we just click this little eyeball. I don't know if that's what it actually is, but it looks like an eyeball. Then we are going to go compare and type in NYA. This is going to be under index. That's the NYSE composite index, and we're going to click on it. That's going to add it. Now I already have it added, so I'm just going to delete this for a second. Then we're going to do the same thing and go QQQ. I have a bunch already here because I check them often. I'm going to click that one to add it to our chart. Notice the scale got instantly changed. Before it was the actual numbers of where the S&P was, and then once you add a chart it gets changed to percentage, because otherwise, because these indexes are at such different levels, if it kept it at like a dollar scale, you wouldn't be able to see them. So it converts it to percentage. And I'm just going to delete that one again because I showed you how. And then we're going to add IWM. Got to go to stocks. And we're going to add that one. So now you've added NYA, IWM, and the QQQ. So those are our four major indexes. And the nice thing about this is that, like I said, I'll show you about the indicators in a second, but for now you can just have this chart nice and clean however you like it, and you can go to regular to just see the actual numbers, or you can keep it in percentage if you like. And the percentage is always going to be from the point, the closing price on the far right of the chart. So as you move, that percentage is going to change based on the last close that you have visible. So based on this price level right here, and you can see that's your 0%, and this just shows how far we've moved up So it can be useful to see just percentage-wise how far we've moved up over different time frames. I use the 6 month and the 1 year a lot. So 6 months, I can just click, and if it's in percentage, I can see, okay, over the last 6 months, we're up 17.5%. If I'm looking for strong stocks, I want to see stocks that are stronger than that are up more over the last 6 months. 1 year, same thing, 15.65% over the last year. I want to ideally see stocks that are up way more than that over the last year. To reveal any of these, we just add them. And we don't really need, we'd be looking at moving averages separate, so we can close those out. And then we can see all the percentages, and I'll typically measure them off a low. And why I would do this is because ideally we want to see all these moving in the same direction. And there's going to be slight differences sometimes because they are tracking different types of stocks. But we can see, okay, Russell 2000 moving up, NASDAQ moving up, NYA moving up, S&P moving up. These are obviously a little bit slower, the NYSE and the S&P 500, the NASDAQ and the Russell obviously seeing much bigger gains. This tells us small cap stocks doing better than the large caps, and technology stocks are doing better than most other stocks. So that's just something that we can kind of use that information, but really for the analysis part, we just want to make sure that they're mostly moving in the same direction. And typically they do, except near market tops when, as I discussed in the course, one might start really dropping. The S&P might keep going up, but technology, the Russell 2000, the NASDAQ are all starting to drop. That tells us that only the really big companies are doing well, and unless you're invested in particularly one of those, you're more likely to end up in stocks that are dropping, losing money. So those are conditions we don't want to be trading in, and eventually the market will pull everything with it. So even though one of these indexes might be doing okay while all the other ones are dropping, it's just a sign. So this is the analysis. This is how I set up my charts for this, and then you can just hide them when you don't need them. And then you can hide that too if you want. Now let's double click, and I provided some guidance in the write-up on how to add all these indicators to our charts, and a few of these are a bit tricky. So volume's easy. We just go indicators, type in volume, and that'll add it to your chart. Click on it, it adds it to your chart. So I have that here. It's hidden because I don't really look at it except when I'm looking at market bottoms and seeing when we're having a potential follow-through day. Other than that, I have it blocked out. I don't care. ROC is an indicator. This is rate of change. This is telling us how much the price is moving on a daily basis. And as discussed in the course, during market uptrends, rate of change is very small. There's not a lot of movement from day to day. It's just, we just kind of drift. And even when we have like some choppy periods, we're not usually getting big sell-offs. And this is what we're really concerned about, is these big drops where the price drops more than 2% in a day. And that's usually not every sell-off where we get a 2% down day. I guess I should phrase it this way. Not every 2% down day starts a major decline, but every major decline has a 2% down day near its start. So it is a warning sign that things are getting a little more turbulent. And so this just tells me to back off a little bit. I don't do anything with my actual trades. It just means as trades hit their stop loss or their profit targets, if we're in volatile periods like this, I stay out. So this is all discussed in the course. Let's just talk about how to actually add these to our chart. So again, it's indicators, ROC, or you can type in rate of change, and this should be pretty much the same on any charting platform you're using. We're going to add that. Once it's added to your chart, we're going to go to the settings, and we're going to put the length to 1, source, close, style, columns. And you can do it kind of in other ones, but it's not going to look as clean. I think the columns show this very well when we're having a spike out of the 2%. And then I've just drawn little lines on the 2, and the upside one doesn't matter as much. I've put it at 150 or 1.5% because typically we don't have moves outside 1%, but or up above 1.5%. But this is really the only one that matters. The drop below 2, that's our warning sign. ADL, I think you just add as an indicator. Yeah, advanced decline line. It's built in. This is based on the NYSE. So this is adding up the advancing and declining stocks on the NYSE, which is a very big exchange. So it's a very good measure of whether stocks are advancing or declining on a particular day overall. And then it's a cumulative measure, so it's adding them up. And really, with this one, we're just watching, as discussed in the videos, that as the indexes are moving up, so is this. When this starts to decline while the indexes are moving up, that's problematic. These other two are going to be a little bit more tricky. Let's start with this one, SFFI. We're going to click compare S5FI. We can see it's S&P 500 stocks above their 50-day moving average. If you want a more comprehensive measure, we can also use MMFI. This is percent of stocks above 50-day moving average. So I haven't actually checked this, but with TradingView, but I'm assuming this is all stocks listed on the U.S. exchanges. There's usually not too much of a difference, but there can be a difference. So actually, MFI is higher right now than the S&P 500. So let's click on it. But you would click either one of those, but let's just add it to our chart so I can show you this process. Now we can see it's been added to our chart. We're going to click on it, move to new pane below, and we can see it's been added, and it acts like an indicator, so we can go in and change the symbols, settings, anything we like. And MFI, so this one's only 57%, and must have been a little higher when I looked at it the other day. And the S&P is at 70%, so 70% of stocks are above their 50-day moving average on the S&P, and this one is right about 60%. So I'm just going to delete this because I already have one up. And then this next one, I do have the code written, but I'll show it to you right here. So we're just going to type in this, and there's no spaces. USI, type in all that. And this is just dividing up volume by total volume for our up and down days. That helps spot market bottoms. So we're going to type that in, click enter again. It's going to draw it on our chart. It's all crazy looking. Right click on it again, move to new pane below. It's going to show up like this. If you want it to look like this, then click the settings, style, and instead of line, we're going to go to something else. So we're going to use bars or candles, probably not so good. Something like this. So I'll have to look at how I got mine exactly set up like this because it does look a little nicer. But something like this would work fine. Area, baseline, and yeah, we want it set on the close. And I'm just going to change that back to baseline. And remember here, we're just looking for the spikes up into the 90% area. Those are the ones we watch for. And so I'll draw a line, just put in a horizontal line at 90. You can see the price doesn't get up there very often, which is good. And then we watch for those little touch points on the 90. And so I've drawn mine here at 80 and 90. And so we can see when the price touches, we have 2 days in a row that are 80, or we reach up into the 90. That's good. And either way, you can just hover over and you'll be able to see how high it actually was. So here we can see it was 88. So not quite 90. There, 88 again, not quite 90. There it was 94, we get the big spike above. Sorry, this one was 91 right there. So yeah, we can just hover our mouse over it to see where these levels are. And then, as with any of these, we can hide them when we don't really need them. And I'm going to delete this one because I already have a version down here. I'm going to try that one more time. Move to new pane below, settings. Yeah, for some reason it's coming up a little bit different than how I have mine, but that's okay. You can always, if you do something you don't like, can hit Control-Z to just go back. And yeah, so mine shows a little compare here. And then I can choose how I want it to look. But either way, even if it doesn't give you that functionality, you can still add it, and you won't get this look, but you can still have the baseline like I showed you, or the area chart, which provides the same purpose. And that's how you set up the charts. And the nice thing is you can just make everything disappear and just have your chart up. Let's put this back to regular, and we can just see how everything goes. And when we want to bring them back, just double click. If this is hidden, it'll also hide the settings and stuff. So if you want to change settings, you'll have to drop this little menu down, and then you can see them all again and click any changes that you want to make. And that's how you set up your chart for analysis. So it is a bit of work, but once it's set up, it's fully clear. And then I also have it set up on a 4, so this is just one of them. Then on another chart, I have the NASDAQ set up. If gold's moving pretty well, I'll have a chart of gold up, or the GDX, which is the fund that tracks gold stocks. I also have the Russell 2000. So this one, I've called it my index and commodities. So I usually have, if one commodity is moving really well and I happen to be taking some trades in that, I will have one segment set up for that. And I'll just have some of the other indexes open. And you can put in anything you want to help you analyze the market in this. And that way everything's here. It's just on my chart. I have it open all the time in just a tab in Chrome or whatever browser you're using. I just have this open in a tab, so I can quickly click on it whenever I need to assess how the markets are doing. And I keep it pretty clean most of the time, just like this. But at any given time, I can look at my indicators. And you can also expand it to make it bigger, put it back. See where we are reference to the 50-day, 200-day. Want to see how the other indexes are doing. And see, this is what happens if it stays in regular mode. So we're going to want to change this to %. Or another one you can do is index to 100. So this is wherever the edge of the chart is, it's going to be 100. And it's similar to percentage. It's just going to put them all on the same chart, and you can compare how they're doing recently. If we go to percentage, you can see not much changes. All pretty much still looks the same. So that's how I set up my charts, and hopefully that helps you out. If you have any questions, ask in the comments.